proper weights and measures, establish laws to protect the less fortunate, returning exiles to their homeland. Aren't we planning on going back home someday?
Amen. Hallelujah.
Restoration of the temple, elimination of exploitation and oppressors, elimination or punishment of exploiters or oppressors, and establishing equality for all people, division of the land to the needy, and also, mind you, that the Gentiles will also have an inheritance. Keep that in mind. So we can see there that the location of Yeshua on the stake being on the pole of freedom for us, a banner or pole at the gates of the city as an act of permanent liberation. If you look at it, it takes a whole new perspective, at least to me at this point. It's when you begin to wear it around your neck and you think that you need to bow down and pray to is where it becomes an issue. Is this making sense?
That's right.
Amen.
Pass through the gates, prepare the way for the people, build up the highway. Remove the stones, lift up a banner for the peoples. See, Yah has proclaimed to the end of the earth, saying to the daughter of Zion, see, your deliverance has come. See, his reward is with him and his work before him. So, if we know that the liberation and the freedom has already been given, and the pole and the sign and the symbol is already at the gate to let Israel and all of the nations know that they can be restored, then what are we supposed to be? And remember that it all begins with the king. A just society, it all begins with the king. And then it goes down to the vassal king. And then it goes on to the hierarchy of the kingdom. And then it goes on to the rest of the people that are part of the kingdom. It's supposed to be as a nation. And Yah and Yeshua have already done their part. That's not the problem. So we're supposed to be the ones sharing with the world the king's justice and the king's righteousness. And we are not doing that. By us going around and telling people they need to keep Shabbat, they need to keep the feast, they need to keep the calendar, that ain't it. This is one of my favorite slides. How many have ever played the American Bible Challenge game? Sure. I know you played them. Have you guys ever seen this game? This game is phenomenal. If you have children, you need to get this game. Even Jeff Foxworthy had an actual game show on the Game Show Network. This is where I got the picture, by the way. That he was the host of this game. It's a really fun game. We play it all the time. One of the categories, or part of the game, is called Bible or Bogus. We're going to play a couple of rounds of Bible or Bogus. So I'm going to give you a couple of verses. And what they would do in the game show, Foxworthy would take some parts of Scripture and put your rocks down, not adding to or taking away from the word. You're just going to tell me whether or not that's how the verse is supposed to be. This is not going to go well. Now, I want to make mention real quick, is that when I told you we had hundreds of slides for this, I didn't make all these slides. This is a group effort from Rico, Ryan, and myself, and a lot of slides come from stuff that they've done, and so it's not. This isn't just a one show effort here. So Bible or Bogus. And see, one came and said to him, "Good teacher, what good shall I do to have everlasting life?" And he said to him, "Why do you call me good? No one is good except one Elohim. But if you wish to enter into life, guard the doctrines of man." He said to him, "Which?" And Yeshua said, "You shall pronounce the name correctly. You shall not observe the writings of Paul. You shall keep the correct calendar. You shall not teach Torah to the Gentiles." Come on. Some of you may have the Message Bible. That's a stolen joke from Tim Hawkins, in case nobody knows. No, it is bogus. It does not say that. It says, and see, one came to him and said, Good teacher, what good shall I do to have everlasting life? And he said to him, Why do you call me good? No one is good except one, Elohim. But if you wish to enter into life, guard the commands. Oh, here we go. This is what we tell the Christians, huh? Just guard the commands. He said to him, which? Yeshua said, You shall not murder. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not bear false witness. Respect your father and your mother. And you shall love your neighbor as yourself. The young man said to him, All these I have. All these I have watched over from my youth. What do I still lack? Yeshua said to him, If you wish to be perfect, go sell what you have and give it to the poor, and you shall have treasure in heaven. And come follow me. And when the young man heard the word, he went away sad, because he had many possessions. So he's keeping the commandments. He's keeping Shabbat. He probably even had the right name and the right calendar. You want to take care of the poor, though. Okay, round 2 of Bible or Bogus. When the Son of Man comes in his glory, and all the angels with him, then he will sit on the throne of his glory. Remember what his throne is built upon, by the way. Justice and righteousness. All the nations will be gathered before him, and will separate people one from another, as a shepherd separates the sheep from the goats. And he will put the sheep at his right hand, and the goats to the left. Then the king will say to those at his right hand, Come, you that are blessed by my Father, inherit the kingdom, prepared for you from the foundation of the world, for you figured out the Sabbath and rebuked your family. You calculated the right calendar. You pronounced the name correctly. You figured out every unkosher food additive. And you booted out every congregation member who did not believe in your theology.
Isn't that the new deceiver virgin?
This is Ryan's slide. It speaks volumes, man.
Yeah.
I particularly like the unkosher food additive, and it's really fun. But the reality is that's how it is. That's really how it is, if you think about it. And I can almost guarantee that every single one of you have experienced this. If you've been here walking this for 1 year, or you've been walking it for 15. You want to know why we don't get it together and everybody thinks we're a joke? When the Son of Man comes in his glory, and all the angels with him, then he will sit on the throne of his glory, of justice and righteousness, and all the nations will be gathered before him, and he will separate people one from another. As a shepherd separates the sheep from the goats, and he will put the sheep at his right hand, and the goats at the left. Then the king will say to those at his right hand, Come, you that are blessed by my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. I was hungry, and you gave me food. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you welcomed me. I was naked, and you gave me clothing. I was sick, and you took care of me. I was in prison, and you visited me. Got any idea what I think Christianity has over us?
Yep.
That's tough. Trust me, some of them may be backed by bad motives. They're still doing it. I'm not saying that I know everybody's personal life in here, by any means. Some of you may be doing that. That's great. But until we as a community or a united body can begin to do these things, they're just going to laugh at us. Because we're focused on all the other things. Go ahead, Chris.
There are more of them getting beheaded overseas than there are of us.
That's right. That's exactly right. So now it's going to become the difficult part if you're not a little uncomfortable yet. So what are we so focused on? This slide comes from Rico's PowerPoint that he did when he did his biblical mandate teaching. I just added some stuff to it because I think that there's more. I mean, I could have probably made 4 slides concerning this list. So, is this really justice and righteousness? Sacred names, Paul's writings, tribulation dates. One house, two house, one law or no law, Gentile or Jewish. Calendars, lunar Sabbath, sighting, sliver, conjunction of Eve, vernal equinox. Did I forget anything? I think there's an Enoch one now.
Enoch, yeah.
Jubilee now celebrated in dispersion versus only in the land. We're casting people into hell because they won't keep the Jubilee here. Torah for the nations or not. The everything is pagan type attitude. Did you guys know that the Sabbath is celebrated in the daytime only? It's kept for only 12 hours.
Well, that's partly true.
Labels. This is one of my favorites. I added this one. Ephraimite, Jew, Messianic. I put Hebrew toots, but it's supposed to be Hebrews.
There's some of those too.
I think somebody had a divine hand on that mesquite.
Now it's on camera.
I can't even talk no more. This disqualifies my whole talk. Christian roots. All other stuff that keeps coming up each and every week. Oh, this is another hot one right now. Levitical versus Melchizedek.
Were we Mormon?
You know, and that's the thing is we laugh and we joke about all this stuff, and it's funny. But in reality, it's not funny. This is what is the norm. And if we're honest, we're all a part of it. I will confess to everybody here right now, I was a Torah terrorist. So all the while we're bickering and fighting about all this other stuff and thinking that this is what Yah's throne is established on. So all the while here in KC, we have thousands of homeless people. Now, this is in Kansas. We're having a Kansas gathering. So we're not going to talk about anywhere else right now. You know, there's 1,400 estimated of those homeless that are veterans in Kansas City area alone. 1,400.
That's disgusting.
These are people that go out and they fight for our country, even though they don't believe in every single thing that the president that sends them there. So there's thousands of people in this area that are hungry, family upon family that doesn't know where their next paycheck is coming. But hey, we know not to eat pork. Take a look at this map. I don't know if you guys can see. I'm going to come over here so I can point. This is a map showing that the homelessness is getting worse and where it's getting better. In all of these states that you see, the dark red ones is where it's worse, where it's getting worse. Check out Kansas, right there. Smack dab in the middle, we're 30% getting worse of number of homeless people since 2008. Just Kansas. We can look around and see all the other states too. But Kansas Food Bank stats. I got this off of their website that's been updated as of, I put a date on this. I think it's from 2014. Widespread use of food assistance. Kansas Food Bank serves 215,300 people annually, including 68, almost 69,000 children. 19, almost 20,000 senior citizens that are calling up the Kansas Food Bank because they don't have enough food. Among all clients, 14% are black, 37% are Latino, and 42% are white. 11% of adult clients are students. 14% of households include someone who is a veteran or who has ever served in the military. Clients struggling with health issues. 82% of the households that contact the Kansas Food Bank report purchasing inexpensive, unhealthy food, which they're going to have unkosher food out of that. Because they could not afford healthier options. 66% of households report having to choose between paying for food and paying for medicine or medical care. This is your government. The government, we have leaders that have risen up into power and promise certain things to people, and everything is actually the opposite. They're actually becoming oppressors. So when the King of Justice and Righteousness comes, one of the main things that he's going to do is destroy all who are oppressing his people.
Hallelujah.
Amen.
Hallelujah.
27% of households include a member with diabetes. 48% of households have a member with high blood pressure. Now granted, trust me, I know. A lot of this has to do with the stuff we put in our bodies. Nobody's disputing that we're not supposed to eat kosher or any of that stuff. This is a reality. We're all so busy fighting and bickering over what we're not supposed to be eating that you got all these people in your backyard, in my backyard, that don't even know when their next meal's coming from. Pretty disgusting. So how then do we establish justice and righteousness? For it is not the hearers of the Torah are righteous in the sight of Elohim, but the doers of the law shall be justified.
Amen.
For when Gentiles who do not have the Torah, please pay attention to this verse. When Gentiles who do not have the Torah by nature do what is in the Torah, although not having the Torah, they are a Torah to themselves, who show the work of the Torah written in their hearts, their conscience also bearing witness, and between themselves their thoughts accusing or even excusing in the day when Elohim shall judge the secrets of men through Yeshua Messiah, according to my good news. Book of Romans, one of those books we want to throw out because Paul wrote it. Now before you start getting all hairy and squirmy about trying to say that you're only saved by works, that's not what I'm saying. You can read the verse yourself. Be ye doers of the Torah. Establish justice as an individual. How do we do that? Obviously, no idolatry. No defiling your neighbor's wife. Do not oppress the alien, the orphan, the poor, the widow. And please pay attention that the verses that are next to these are all from the Tanakh. All the prophets were coming to bring the message of Yah because Israel was neglecting to do all of these things. Yes, they were breaking the Torah, idolatry, and all these other things, but if you now understand what justice and righteousness is, it is attached to idolatry. Do not commit robbery. Restore the pledge of the debtor. Give bread to the hungry. Clothe the naked. Do not charge interest on loans to your brother. Execute justice between parties. Do not shed innocent blood. Deliver those who have been robbed from the hand of the oppressor. Show kindness and mercy. Showing kindness and mercy is directly linked to what we're talking about. Kindness and mercy means you do not care where the person is at if they are hungry. Somebody is in your midst and you know they need food. And we're going to look at James's verses in a second. We got issues. Do not plot evil against one another. Do not oppress your workers. Loose the bonds of injustice and the thongs of yoke. And we already know that Yeshua established these. Yah established these things. Bring the homeless into your house. Clothe the naked. Do not hide yourself from your kin. Don't hide yourself from your kin. Stop pointing fingers and speaking evil. Keep the Shabbat for your household. Be eyes to the blind, be feet to the lame. And champion the cause of the stranger. Is this making sense to everybody?
Amen.
Are we nuts? Nobody's commenting. Nobody has anything to say. Go ahead, Cheryl. No, Bob.
I just want to read from Isaiah 66, a little portion of it. Thus saith Yahweh, the heaven is my throne, and the earth is my footstool. Where is the house that you built unto me, and where is the place of my rest? For all those things has my hand made, and all those things have been, says Yahweh. But to this man will I look, even to him that is poor, and of a contrite spirit, and trembles at my word. He that kills an ox, is as if he slew a man. He that sacrifices a lamb, as if he cuts off a dog's neck. He that offers an oblation, as if he offered swine's blood. And he that burns incense, as if he blessed an idol. Yea, they have chosen their own ways, and their soul delights in their abominations. And then he goes on to say what he's going to do about that. And the reason I'm reading this is because this is from last week's Torah portion. This is a rebuke to the house of Judah and to Levi as they carry out the sacrifices in the temple. You're keeping Torah and yet doing it as if you are, going through the motions of some horrendous thing. If you allow your own emotions, your disgust, your sense of cruelty to overtake what you're doing, no matter what it is, it will become an abomination to him. That's all.
That's right. That's good. And I wanted to... Got some more?
In Romans, Paul says that the Torah, love is the fulfillment of the Torah, which of course you understand that means the goal. And I tried to understand this for a while until I learned that you realize that every commandment is training in love. And it's really interesting that the idea of righteousness, that we in the West don't have a concept of the Torah righteousness, because when we think of righteousness, we think of only justice, do's and don'ts, and police cops and all that. While the Hebrew concept, really, as Brother Daniel was pointing out, is about generosity. And that's one of the reasons the Hebrew righteousness, tzedakah, its Greek counterpart is agape. And it's really fascinating when you think about that. And because a lot of time, the temptation is to get caught up into the mentality of mitzvah, police, Torah, commando, which God never called any of us to do. But the easy thing to do, as human beings, we sometimes think about it, while really what we really call about is to go after the lost, those look around, see those who are in need, and see what can be done in love. But a lot of times we get distracted into the mitzvah, police, Torah, commando mentality that we forget the more important issues of Torah.
Right. Gotcha.
What came to mind is, I think that we all need to be doing these things. However, I think we see an example with Joseph being appointed to the steward of the storehouses, of the granaries. Maybe it's time to start thinking about electing somebody or a group or a ministry to oversee these types of works. Now, maybe you've already done this, Dan, but it seems like it's getting close to that time, or maybe it's already passed.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because we're gonna touch on that at the end of this. If that's okay. And I just want to be real here. I've been approached so many different times just in recent weeks that people have tried to get me to give questions or give answers to questions on establishing some sort of halakha in this group or that group, or we need to go to this guy because he's getting ready to do this, and I don't even know this person. We are so focused as Torah believers in Messiah in ruling and wanting to correct everybody on every single issue that becomes the focus.
Amen.
And I can't do it. I cannot do that anymore. We are not doing these things as a community or as a body. If you're doing it in your own congregations, that's fine. I'm saying Israelites, Messianic people as a whole are not doing these things. And it may be time for somebody to, I don't know, organize or whatever. I know that my wife and I have something that we want to begin doing, and we have some other things that we're going to share with you guys that you guys can do. It doesn't attach to anybody else. But the reality is I'm not going to enter into bickering and fighting any longer when people just want to rule and reign and just you only want to be a community. We only want to be a community, when we got to go correct somebody. But we're going to neglect. How many? I don't know half of you. I do not know half of the people here. But I can assure you that some of you fall into those categories where you don't know where your next paycheck's coming from. But yeah, we're so focused on, well, we got to get the word out. Everybody thinks they're a teacher. Nobody wants to do the other acts that we're supposed to be doing. Who's got the...
I got the mic.
Go ahead.
I was thinking about when Yeshua came, when he went to the temple and he opened up the scroll and he read from Isaiah 61, then he said at the end, today this has been fulfilled. And he is the Word, he is Torah in the flesh. And when he explained to people, how do I get to heaven? He said, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. And in doing that, you observe Torah. But I wanted to read Isaiah 61 because it's truly a mandate of what Torah is all about in a way, because he is Torah, and this is what he said, I fulfill this. And it says, the Spirit of the Sovereign Yahweh is on me because the Lord has anointed me to preach good news to the poor. He has sent me to bind up the brokenhearted and to proclaim freedom to the captives and release from darkness for the prisoners, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor and the day of vengeance for our God, to comfort all who mourn and provide for those who grieve in Zion, to bestow on them a crown of beauty instead of ashes, the oil of gladness instead of mourning, and a garment of praise instead of a spirit of despair. They will be called oaks of righteousness, a planting of the Lord for the display of his splendor. They will rebuild the ancient ruins and restore the places long devastated, and they will renew the ruined cities, for they have been devastated for generations. Aliens will shepherd your flocks, foreigners will work your fields and vineyards, and you will be called priests of the Lord. For your name, you will be named ministers of our God. You will feed on the wealth of nations, and the riches you will boast. Instead of their shame, the people will receive a double portion, and instead of disgrace, they will receive in their inheritance. And they will inherit a double portion of the land, and everlasting joy will be theirs. For I the Lord, love justice, and I hate robbery and iniquity. In my faithfulness I will reward them that make the everlasting covenant with him. Their descendants will be known among the nations, and their offspring among the peoples. All of them will acknowledge that they are the people the Lord has blessed. I delight greatly in the Lord. My soul rejoices in my God, for he has clothed me in garments of salvation and arrayed me in a robe of righteousness. As a bridegroom adorns his head like a priest, and as a bride adorns herself with jewels. For as the soil makes the sprout come up, and the garden causes seeds to grow, so the sovereign Lord will make righteousness and praise spring up before all the nations.
So we can see that the righteousness isn't just linked to keeping commandments. But if we are keeping the commandments in the right perspective, remember we talked about form and function, mechanics and character? If all we're doing is focusing on the form, if you're really honest, learning how to keep Shabbat is pretty simple. Learning how to keep the feast are really simple. Learning how to eat kosher, pretty simple. It's not hard. That isn't what's going to get you into the kingdom. Those things are there to keep us as a pure, set-apart nation. But in so keeping the covenant is that it helps us to learn how to develop the function of that and how to develop the character of Yah. Remember, he's the creator of us. He's the one who created the heart. He had a set purpose and a set function for each and every one of us that he created. And it isn't what we're doing. So if we're really honest with ourselves, it's learning how to be like Yah and be like Yeshua is really the difficult part.
Daniel, I just wanted to mention, just to encourage everyone, it's very easy for us to get into the mentality of let's create a commission, let's create a group that, has the face of the Hebrew roots and is officially, doing something in this community for the Hebrew roots people. But that's easy too. I would suggest that you go to the Father and ask him how to show you to do acts of justice and righteousness on your own first. Practice it with the people around you. And homeless people is like the target group because everybody thinks that that's like, you know, the only type of injustice that's going on around us. But there are single women trying to raise kids. There are single women that need sinks fixed, need, you know, cars repaired. There are elderly women who have no husbands, you know, who may need their brakes changed. There are all kinds of environments around us where if we just pick up the towel and first of all, get to know the people around you. Don't try to teach them something. It's relational first, and I have found, and I'm not trying to put myself in a position of, you know, self-righteousness. It became easier to share Torah after I had established a relationship with a person, because they ask, and it's a genuine curiosity, and you know, I would respond with certain things, but yeah, Daniel, I'm with you, and that's my encouragement is practice it individually first.
Yes. And you know, I want to add to something. You know, we say that Christianity is doing these things, even though all of them are not doing it with the right motives. But I would even propose to you that Jews do this more than we do. But we're going to go and tell them about Yeshua. Come on. Go on any Jewish synagogue's website, and you will find a tab that says social justice, and it has all these different things that they ask people to help. But we're just going to waltz right in there, and we're going to tell them how it's going to be. Sorry, it's not going to happen that way. When we're all waiting for the end times to occur, everybody's got a timeline, everybody's got their idea of when the Messiah is going to return. We're all preparing for the Great Tribulation. You do not want to be in the Great Tribulation. It's not a vacation. Do you understand why we read Torah each and every week the way that we read it in a cyclical manner? Can anybody tell me why?
Because we're stupid. We need to hear it over and over.
Well, correct answer number one. Number two is because it's going to happen again. And what happens when he took them out of Egypt? Tell me what happens when we get to the Exodus in the wilderness. Somebody, please.
We're going to be passed under the rod to see whether or not we're his or not.
There you go.
Scary thought.
Scary thought.
Daniel,
Yes.
there's all kinds of people with their hands up.
Oh. Who's got the mic?
Lisa's up.
I do. I might be jumping into a snake pit right here, but first of all, I had this very dear grandmother who was a Christian that said that we needed to go out and teach the gospel. And sometimes, very seldom, we might just need to open our mouth. And I think that is where we struggle with here. There's a lot of more mouth openers condemning than there are exemplars that are doing. And I heard somebody in the back when something was brought up about Melchizedek and are we Mormons? And I know it was a total joke, but I was a Mormon for 17 years. And I lived in that culture. And we have a lot to learn from those Mormons. Because I don't agree with the culture or their ordinances now. I don't agree by their doctrine. But I tell you what, you want a people that walks the walk, talks the talk, does the acts that need to be done, are Christ-like. You couldn't ask for better people than the Mormons because they live their life. It's not a religion to them, it's a life to them. And that's the way they are. And it was very, very hard for me to walk out of the Mormon faith into this faith because we had a lot of slapping in the face going on when we were trying to learn rather than letting conditioning, here, let me show you rather than let me tell you.
That's the thing. God he doesn't really care about our theology. He really doesn't. He doesn't care one way or the other what we believe about all these doctrines of men or doctrines that we make pet doctrines. You know, we got groups in this area that don't want anything to do with one another because we don't hold to this or that, to this, to that, to this, that. But look what we're doing here. This is absolutely amazing. And this is the second time that this is happening because everybody seems to be feeling the same thing. Because they're tired of being alone. They're tired of walking in, well, we're going to do our thing. This is how it's going to be. And if you don't adhere to our ways, then you just hit the road.
Really briefly, I second, I don't know who that was that was talking about doing the acts of justice and righteousness personally. But one of the things, the scripture that you brought about the rich young ruler that was wrong, at the end of that was to go sell all that you own and give it to the poor, and that he couldn't do. He let go of that. But he said if you want to be perfect. And I was thinking that, and I don't want to say we shouldn't do as a group of something, but if you organize kind of a, don't get me wrong here, but kind of a charity within a group, and then people have to approach that quote charity, there is, I believe, a loss of dignity that can happen. And I don't think that's what our King intended. And this is just my opinion, but I think that our King wants the people of his kingdom to see the people, other people just like them, and if they're in need, give directly, have relationship. Because dignity can be maintained in that. And not only that, but healing can happen when that love is shared directly. And it does require more of us to do that than to give $10. We have to actually open up our hearts, open up our homes. We have to actually do something that giving $10, I'm afraid that when we stand before Yeshua and he separates the sheep and the goats, because I don't think that was just a story. I'm not sure saying, well, I gave $10 here and $5 there and I gave to this fund is really going to cut it. And you know, the goats were quite surprised. They were very surprised because they're, well, when, Lord? And we have
because they actually did those acts. It wasn't just, and it became part of their lives, part of their nature.
We have to actually do the act, exactly. And so, and I think that we have to be careful not to do it in such a way that people lose their dignity and feel like they have to come and kind of grovel for a box of food. And that's how that kind of works a lot of times.
I think you're absolutely right.
Anyway, and I like in this group, what I like is that we haven't made a church. I know church is not a bad word, but you know what I mean? Yeah. We haven't recreated the wheel. And if, you know, I like that. I hope we can somehow save that.
Real quick, can I just throw something out? Just go find a need and fill it. That's what my aunt used to tell me.
And we're supposed to do our good deeds in secret.
Yeah, go find a need and just fill it.
I gotta keep it on time, so really short.
Yeah, really short. We should really be asking ourselves all the question as we began to enter this Torah walk, and we were seeking after God because we wanted to know Yeshua more. How did we end up where we are right now? And I think a lot of the times we say Messiah is the Torah in the flesh, so instead of having a relationship fostered with Yeshua, what I'm going to do is I'm going to study the Torah, and then that's going to get me closer to God. And don't get me wrong, the Torah, understanding the Torah, that's God's heart wrapped up in there, but the power, the presence, the actual reality of a real God, Yeshua being here, and being part of your life is what's going to move you and motivate you to understand the weightier matters of things. If we make Torah the living Word of God, if we make the words on stone the living Word of God, and we run after that, we worship the ketubah rather than longing for our bridegroom. And I think if we gaze and we focus on Him, His presence, and who He really is as a real God, that's going to keep our hearts in the right position.
You know, one of the reasons that I felt led to talk about this topic, and then last week was the honor and shame topic. And for those of you who weren't here, I'm sorry about that. But the reason for that is that if we can grasp these two foundational principles and realize that it's built off of that, everything else becomes so much more easier. Trust me, all these things that it seems like I'm just up here yelling about, I'm part of that. Part of the problem. That's coming.
Okay, with what we were talking about with going and making disciples. Okay, I came from Jehovah's Witness background, and so that scripture is huge in that realm. And recently I was listening to Skip Moen with a lot of his teachings that take you back to the Hebrew. And I thought it was really awesome to learn that word go is not there in the Hebrew. Instead, it's make disciples. And he brought out how to do that is within our own personal lives. And just like what everyone here is saying, is that we need to, within our own lives, live this. And so when we see a need of someone, we need to try to take care of that. And that is fulfilling Torah. And it doesn't have to be this organized thing where we go and maybe knock on a door or whatever. We can do this within our own lives when we live Torah throughout.
Right. You know, and that's the key. Remember that when we did talk about honor and shame last month, is that one of the areas that we bring honor to the Father is after we take that oath. And we talked about how every person that became a Christian took an oath, and they bound themselves to Yeshua and to keep the covenant that Yeshua kept. Okay, you cannot, in ancient covenantal thinking, everything you do is based off of action. Okay, so if you are not going to maintain the oath by your actions individually, we are never going to come together as any type of organized group, congregation, anything. And that's not what we're trying to do here. Okay, not by any means. We're trying to bring everybody that is in this area that wants to come together to learn to fellowship together, for one thing. We all think we're going to waltz right into the tribulation, but we can't even get along outside the tribulation. Jeez. So, yeah. All right, we got 2 slides left. 1 John 3, 6 through 18. Now this kind of blew me away when I seen this last week and I was making this. Everyone staying in him does not sin. Everyone sinning has neither seen him nor known him. Little children, that's you and I. Let no one lead you astray. The one doing righteousness is righteous, even as he is. The one doing sin is of the devil, because the devil has sinned from the beginning. For this purpose the Son of Elohim was manifested, to destroy the works of, I don't know where that came from. Everyone having been born of Elohim does not sin, because his seed stays in him, and he is powerless to sin, because he has been born of Elohim. In this the children of Elohim and the children of the devil are manifest. Everyone not doing righteousness is not of Elohim. That's what it says.
That's right.
Neither the one not loving his brother. Because this is the message that you heard from the beginning, that we should love one another. Remember, it's not the warm, fuzzy kind of, hey, I'm hugging a kiss, love you. If you're hungry, I'll pray for you. Not as Cain, who was the wicked one and killed his brother. And why did he kill him? Because his works were wicked, but those of his brother were righteous. Do not marvel, my brothers, if the world hates. We know that we have passed out of death into life. because we love the brothers. The one not loving his brother stays in death. Everyone hating his brother is a murderer. And you know that no murderer has everlasting life staying in him. By this we have known love, because he laid down his life for us. And we ought to lay down our lives for the brothers. But whoever has the world's goods and sees his brother in need and shuts up his tender affections from him, how does the love of Elohim stay in him? My little children, let us not love in word or in tongue, but in deed and in truth. All right, last one. Here's our brother James, Yaakov. My brothers, what use is it for anyone to say he has believed, but does not have works? This belief is unable to save him. If a brother or a sister is naked and in need of daily food, one of you says to them, "Go in peace, be warmed and be filled," but you do not give them the bodily needs, of what use is it? So also belief, if it does not have works, is it itself dead? But someone might say, "You have belief and I have works. Show me your belief without your works, and I show you my belief by my works." You believe that Elohim is one. You do well. The demons also believe and shudder. But do you wish to know, O foolish man, that the belief without the works is dead? Was not Abraham our father declared right by works when he offered Yitzhak his son on the altar? Do you see that the belief was working with his works, and by the works the belief was perfected? Keep in mind, we started this off with the very first verse of justice and righteousness being with who? Abraham. Abraham believed Elohim, and it was reckoned to him for righteousness. And he was called Elohim's friend. Wonder what we're being called. You see then that a man is declared right by works, and not by belief alone. In the same way, was not Rahab the whore also declared right by works when she received the messengers and sent them out another way? Whereas the body without the spirit is dead, so also the belief is dead without works.
Amen.
With all of this being said, Bob, I know you got your hand up. It's time we're going to make choices. Now that we understand what our mandate is, Israel has a mission. It's been established by the Father, by the Son. You've been guaranteed your inheritance back. All of your debts have been canceled. Everything that he held against you is gone, and you've been set free. But Israel as a nation, the people that are claiming to be Israel are not doing what the Father and what the Son does. So everybody here wants to talk about what are we supposed to do. Well, we have a stack of papers over here that has a list of about 10 to 20 different things that Melanie put together on a PDF Word document that covers anywhere from widows, orphans, to buying food for people's pets. We're dog people, in case some of you don't know. My wife is a huge dog lover. But if you want this list, there's copies of the list up here. You can go and do your own thing. It doesn't need to be with any organized anything. Just do it. But if nobody is there to tell us that we need to do these things, because everybody's so focused on all these other topics. All the other leaders are talking, doing their own thing. I'm not saying nobody's doing this on their own, but people need to be told. They need to be shown that this is a huge part of walking covenant. This goes for myself, it goes for my family, it goes for every one of you. So, if you want the papers, they're up here. You can do it, whatever you want with it. I also have a copy of it I can get to you by other means. So, I pray that this was not too much of a beating over anybody's head. That wasn't my intention. And just because I have a mic and I've been given a mouthpiece to stand up in front of you wasn't my intent. Shabbat Shalom.